Gold mine. 2 words in case you care. Spectravideo. I guess this was after the company's name had been changed, because there had already been a Spectravision. I think they made gizmos that displayed text on hotel TVs. Anyway, 1983. I tried for quite a while to find the fun in this cartridge-based game, as it looks like there should be a lot of it. I ended up enjoying myself in a way, laughing heartily at the mixture of endearingly earnest designing and programming efforts, and regrettably inept gameplay planning. The protagonist is given all that space in which to run and climb around, but he doesn't have to travel any farther than the nearest accessible platform to repeatedly raise the score, and raising the score is all that there is to do. Don't begin the game until you've prepared yourself to meet the first complicated challenge, locating the bank. If the skills that you've developed prior to tackling this game include knowing how to read, well done. You've overcome the preliminary obstacle and you're ready for round 2, in which you're wisely abstaining from robbing said bank, helping yourself to the gold buried beneath it instead. For unknown reasons, whoever has concealed it down there has conspicuously carved it into the shapes of several dollar signs. To celebrate your discovery, you've dressed yourself in golden clothes and painted your entire head likewise. If you grab one of the gaudily sculpted pieces, you'll see at the bottom that you've collected a certain dollar amount in gold. You can climb up to the bank and slam yourself against the wall if you'd like to change the collected amount to a deposited one. It's an odd method of banking, but it seems to work for these desert folk. The business doesn't have the brainiest of owners. If he'd bother to look out the window, he'd see a couple of ladders sticking out of the ground, and arrange for his retirement a few enlightening seconds later. It's funny to picture some hopeful company chief choosing the perfect site for his bank without even being conscious of it. But then it's also the perfect site for a pet shop. While it's unclear how long the overlooked mine has been there, it's become infested with bats, oversized spiders, apparent mongooses, and, in spite of the clear absence of water in this locale, crocodiles. Your character can fall from any height inside the mine without becoming a golden stain on one of its surfaces. Nevertheless, he's not really cut out for this type of undertaking, as he has somehow lived long enough to learn the value of gold, but not how to jump. A better way of starting his fortune might be to climb back up to that bank and apply for a job. I can understand his excitement, though. He plainly believes that the gold he's found has been enchanted by some means, as it appears to regenerate at the moment it's deposited. What's more likely is that the bank people are perfectly aware of their subterranean backup vault, and that they're putting it right back where it belongs every time it's brought in by this destitute sap with no spring in his step. Only pity prevents them from having him arrested, possibly along with the entertainment. Things surely get humdrum at a bank in the wilderness. In light of the jumping incapacity, the only real strategy is to watch the creature's green-wrapping patrols and time your platform access accordingly. Since the gold incessantly pops right back into place, there are no true levels to beat. That's not true, more later. And there's nothing to stop you from extracting and depositing the uppermost piece over and over again. Gold salvaged from the lower rows is worth more, but the $10 portion at the top involves almost no risk. When quite a lot of dough has been cashed in, it stops reappearing until you've collected all of it. What the unidentified programmer, or maybe the manual writer, had in mind was a sanctioned, post-earthquake retrieval of the bank's dribbled riches from the overrun sewers below. But to me, the hapless mine raider story was more amusing to write, not to mention more in keeping with the title. All in all, playing the game doesn't make for a whole lot of fun, except while making fun of it. In that respect, it's pure gold. Now, what I've just read is the chapter as it appears in the book, as always. It was written as a humorous take on gold mine, as if someone had attempted to play it without access to the manual. But that was actually what I had done, as I really hadn't been able to find any instructions, online or elsewhere. You can find it these days, though. Adam, Bally Alley, showed me how to play the game properly about a decade after I had written the book, and it's actually a lot of fun. Uncharacteristically, I hadn't figured it out on my own. Thanks, Adam. Not as if I wouldn't have written the same jokes, but they could have been followed by a more serious description of the gameplay. And I'm sure I could have worked out how to play, but I didn't take the time. I guess I just wanted it to be a funny chapter. But that doesn't do the game justice. At least I can finally rectify that now. Actually, a lot of the upcoming details I've observed myself, as the manual isn't clear on everything. By the way, the name of the designer/programmer turns out to be Alan Watson. He would go on to Ozark Softscape, which made games for Electronic Arts. One of the many software houses whose games EA released. You're recovering the money lost by a bank in an earthquake. You're also kind enough to return it to the bank. Aren't you cool? Coincidentally, this is the book's second game in a row to have dollar signs in it. Anyway, yeah, you do want to grab the gold. The playfield doesn't wrap for you, only for your enemies. Where it reads collected at the bottom there, you can see how much gold you currently have in hand. The amount transfers to deposited once you've brought the collected gold to the bank, and collected then returns to zero, of course. The deposited amount is your actual score, you see. You get an extra Good Samaritan at 10,000 points, and only then, as far as I've been able to get. Apparently, you only have so much room in your pockets, as you cannot carry more than 2,010 bucks worth of gold. That was an odd, even number for Walton to pick. Maybe he's an Arthur C. Clarke fan. When you collide with one of the creatures, you go broke, as if getting killed weren't bad enough. The deposited amount remains, obviously. You just lose any gold you might have collected. If the clock readout has yet to hit zero when you make a deposit, then provided that you've collected at least $250 in gold, or a normal full screen's worth, your collected amount will be doubled, and the clock will reset to 40. This is the only bank in the world that awards bonus cash. What's cool is that the gold is worth more the deeper underground you go, from 10 to 100. The creatures duly get faster, not only per depth, but also as you collect more and more gold. They really speed up overall, and move more and more erratically every time you complete a level. This happens at 1,000 points, then 5,000, then 10,000, then not 15 or 20,000, and who knows after that. For all I know, there are only 4 levels. Watson might have thought nobody would make it farther. If the clock does reach zero, you can return it to its initial 40 seconds by depositing $250. Whenever you do bring gold to the bank, or get killed, all of the gold reappears for more grabbing, $1 sign per platform, at first. From level 2 onward, you have to collect all the gold before more appears. The locations of the dollar signs are random, which of course makes the game that much better. The tricky part is, again, you can't jump, so your endeavors here are doubly courageous, since you're doing all this with broken kneecaps. It causes you to plan your immediate route more strategically than you would if you could hurdle the monsters, instead of taking care to avoid them. What does make planning easier is that you survive any fall. Well, unless you fall onto a creature, of course. So you see, Goldmine is a bit more intricate than it appears at first. What I wonder is, why don't the bank people just store all the gold underground anyway? They can't possibly all fit inside that tiny building. That wasn't an earthquake earlier. It was the walls rupturing. The next game is Shadow World.